Welcome to Studio 125 Multimedia Complex, where our mission is to provide a safe, positive platform for the community to share their life journey. Today, I have Christopher Leonard out of Huntsville, Alabama. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you, my brother?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, we'll jump right into it. Let's talk about where you're originally from. Where you born and raised, brother?
Well, I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
Born on the north side. Huntsville is it's a growing place now. Back then, we had a lot of traditions that were in place, but things are growing. Diversity is spreading, and it's turning to be the best kept secret around here these days.
Okay. Yeah, where I stay at is because a little town called Blythe, and that's the logo, the slogan. I mean, best kept secret. They lied.
Yeah.
They lied though. All right, with all jokes out the way, let's get into your journey. Let's start back when you were a kid. What was your family household like growing up?
Uh, my family household was more so one of mom and dad. They started off initially, they were married. They were hardworking individuals. They went to school and picked up valuable skill sets that allowed them to plan logistics and be an engineer.
Okay.
Specifically, my father was an engineer. My mom was more in the logistics and business operation format. She understood what it takes to get products from A to Z and the kind of packaging and materials that needed to be associated with it and how to build relationships that were sustainable. Whereas, like I said, my father, he was an engineer.
Okay.
He was more of building something from scratch or believing everything was possible. It
Okay.
just needed adjustments or enhancements to it. But it was a life where there was never a dull moment, and I could at least say that on my half because I was always into something.
He was always into something.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Towards your teenage years, your parents separated, right?
yeah. They separated.
Okay. What was that like for you?
It was different because I was used to seeing them both in the house. And as a kid, you ask one parent something, and they say no. So when you think the other parent doesn't know what you asked the first parent,
All right.
you try to sneak it in and get it, and you see if you can get your way. But you know, back then they were more in sync with each other, so it was hard to get something by them. But once they got divorced, things started to happen, and the life just becomes different. Like you, instead of seeing two parents in the house, you're only seeing one, and you really have to govern yourself accordingly. And I say that because you're on a things get stricter
Right.
because there's nobody there to fill the void. So you got to do what one or the other parent says, and you can't really question it.
That's right. Totally understand that. So fast forward into your teenage years. Your mom and your dad is separated, and around 9/11, your dad gets deployed.
Right.
Talk to us about that.
Well, that was a sensitive time. Excuse me. It was a sensitive time in my life because my dad he had got deployed. At the time, I was playing ball. I was playing basketball, and me and my dad. I was a sophomore in high school when he got deployed. So me and my dad, our relationship had gotten better. Um, we had began to become closer with
Okay.
one another. I didn't have a problem sharing my thoughts and my feelings with him and just getting his perspective. And he just had me on a regimen to where I was more disciplined and I was more careful about things I said or did because I knew that there were consequences that would be associated with myself and with him. But when 9/11 hit and they telling you your pops gotta go to Afghanistan or Iraq, whichever way, to go fight for the country, and you knowing that what 9/11 was all about and what happened, you're not sure if you ever gonna see your pops again. So
Right.
that's the mind state I was. I was hurt. Um, I felt I felt a sense of abandonment, but I understood why he had to go. He even told me, he said, "Son, this is what I signed up for. At any moment, the government can call my number, and I gotta go and handle my business.
Mhm.
And you just gotta respect that because we benefited from certain things, and now I got to go pay those benefits."
Right, right. Yeah. When they got that call, you have to go. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's when it started to change you and you started to pick up certain habits and hang with certain crowds, right?
yeah, I did.
Let's
I
talk about
did.
that. You start smoking marijuana a lot more. You start hanging with you call the other crowd.
Yeah, well, I did because that happened. So I was really uh when he left, that's when things got real and I felt like I had to lash out or not even lash out, but just find a way to cope with the fact that I can't pick up the phone and call my dad and talk to him, or he can't come pick me up
Mhm.
and come talk to me and take me somewhere to go sit down and have a conversation and get something to eat. So now I'm finding certain ways to cope and guide myself through life. Now, granted, those weren't the best things to do, but they were experiences that I would eventually use as wisdom and learning tools for my path forward. But yeah, I started hanging with certain people who made me find a way to be my truthful self, not in the sense of just sitting there smoking or participating in things that I shouldn't be doing, but more so of questioning me, like, what you really want out of life? Like, what do you really want to do? Like, who are you? And they're simple questions, but yet they're deep
Mhm.
because at the core of everything an individual is, you have to find your purpose with it too.
Right. Okay. So so the crowd, let's talk about the kind of crowd you started hanging with. So now you're missing your dad, you're finding ways to cope with life. So how did your circle change?
Well, my circle was always the same. It's just that I had more time to indulge with them now.
Oh, okay.
So I come I grew up in a mixed environment, not necessarily color wise, but mixture of character of people. So your average, your from your average day hustler to your how do you say to your local pimps to the guy who was just had the nature to rob, or just the guy who just had a way of conning people out of certain things.
Okay.
I'm not knowing that this is what they really do or how they do it, but I'm sitting back and I'm just watching how they talk to people to get to what they want. And it's a norm to them,
Right.
not knowing that this was something that they were born into or something that they picked up at an early age and they just been walking with it since. It just opened me up to a different world.
Right. Okay. Okay. So around this time, you're in college and you have a disagreement with someone. You actually get into like an altercation. And this leads into your trouble with the law.
Say that one more time.
I said around this time, you're in college and you have a disagreement with someone, and this led into your trouble with the law.
No, this around this time I was still in high school.
Okay.
when all this was going on. And I just I had got adapted to the environment, and I felt a sense of acceptance. And I say that because when I was, like I said, when my dad went away, I started to spiral, and I went to and I was playing basketball, but I got kicked out of the basketball team because I couldn't keep my attitude in check. And so, like I said, I had more time to indulge with my friends who were in these different environments. And I never looked at them as bad people. Eventually, I would look at them as people who were just making mistakes. I mean, good people make bad decisions.
That's right.
And things happen. And I was fortunate enough that I was able to graduate high school. And I had a mother who would not give up on me. And she was looking and searching for schools for me to go to. She found a school for me to go to called Stillman College. And she was on the go. She said, "Pack everything. You going?" And so I went down there, and then that's when my life really changed.
Okay. Well, talk to us a little about that. You get in trouble when you finally get in college, but I have here where you actually got into a disagreement once to one, and then that's when you actually got caught with the gun and the weed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, back then, I was in college, like I say, and I wasn't from there. I wasn't from where I was going to school at. And a situation occurred where I went to a party with a couple of my friends, and long story short, the guys tried to jump me. Fortunately, I had a couple of good people with me who wouldn't let that happen. And yeah, the altercation happened and we got to fighting and things of that nature. But for some reason, it clicked my antennas to say, hey, man, next time you might not have nobody here with you.
Hmm.
You might not have nobody to support you. You need to get you some form of protection.
Right.
And so that's when I went out and searching and obtained a gun and things of that nature. And I said, you know what, I ain't from here, and I'm going to go back home to my mom and one piece and not one box.
Right.
So I thought it was in my best interest to have a gun at the time. Obviously, it was not because I wasn't 21 and I wasn't registered to carry.
Hmm.
So, but in my head, in the environments I've been exposed to, that's how they protected themselves.
Hmm. That's right. So you end up actually getting locked up for this gun.
I did. I did. One night, me and a buddy of mine, we were leaving campus. We were finna go over another buddy of mine's house, and we were going through the light, and the light was yellow. But as I was going through the light being yellow, it jumped to red,
Right.
and the local police officer seen me coming through the light, and he pulled me over at the gas station, and he was basically like, "Hey, you ran that red light." I said, "No, the light was yellow. It wasn't red." And then I believe he used that just as some weak excuse to stop my car and pull me over. And he was like, "You got anything in the car? Anything illegal I should know about?" I went ahead and told him. I said, "Yeah, I got a gun and a bag of weed in my pocket or whatever." And I said, "My partner, he don't know nothing about it. I just picked him up from school. We were going to go hang out with a couple of other friends. So leave him out of it."
Right.
And so out of respect, I guess the cop respected me for being honest, so he let my partner call someone to come get him. Matter of fact, he even let him take the vehicle I was driving back to campus. And they put me in the car and took me down to the station, and I had to post bail.
Okay. How old are you at this time?
I was like, I want to say I was 19.
Okay. So you're 19 years old now. You're getting locked up for the first time. What was that experience like?
It was different. Cause I mean, you see the stuff on TV, you hear about it, but it ain't that. You know, it's not what most people think it is. It's not that, and the whole environment is different. People are different. You know, you being exposed around some cats that ain't seen the light of day for 2 or 3 years straight because they've been waiting on trial,
Right.
or cats that's just on a simple probation violation and they just waiting to have a number called so they can leave, or it's just different. And I met some of the smartest people in the world in there, and I done met some people is just like, you know, I hate that they fell short in life.
Right. Okay. How long did you end up spending your first time?
Well, that was just merely like I stayed. Kept me in there for like half a night because of due process, and it takes so long for them to get you out of there. Shifts change, so you have to wait. So I bonded out on that, and I was late. I did like this screening program, diversion program, whatever you like to call it, and yeah. So I got out on like a diversion program on that situation.
Okay. Let's fast forward until your early 20s. Now you're in a relationship with a woman. I think you said it was 4 years. You was with her.
Yeah, I was with her for 4 years.
Let's start to talk about that relationship because that's when your life really took a turn.
Yeah, that relationship, I like to refer to as Lady X.
Okay.
Um, that relationship, it was different. It was like my first real relationship on my own. Like I was, you know, like I said, I was in college. I didn't have really anybody down there to help guide me. So I'm learning on the fly.
Right.
And it was different. Like I really felt like that me and her were gonna be together for the rest of our lives at that time when
Mhm.
we were together. I thought we was gonna be together for the rest of our lives, but our personalities and our attitudes were so different. I was surprised that we lasted for 4 years. And it was just different, man. Um, I learned from her the greatest mistake I made was reacting versus responding.
Right.
Um, but when you young, you in love, um, and you still trying to find yourself, you don't take value in knowing these kind of things. There's no way you could possibly know these things unless you were well versed in it or
Hmm.
you experienced it earlier.
That's right.
And and honestly, it was just something I feel like in moments I took for granted.
Okay. All right. So this is around 2010. And like I said, this is where your life really took a turn. Uh,
Yeah.
you guys end up having a really bad night and the police got involved. Can elaborate?
Yeah, man. It was a rough night. It was in January of 2010. This was around the time that Nick Saban had won his first title with Alabama as their head coach. Um, and the town was still celebrating. I think they won on a Monday night, Monday or Tuesday night. But Saturday, from Monday to Sunday, the whole town was just celebrating, and they were just in awe. And so happened, my neighbor at the time, she asked me to take her cousin out on the town and show him around, allow him to have a good, show him how to have a good time. So I did.
Right.
But prior to that, I had just got into some foolishness with my with Lady X at the time because, you know, I was living up under the myth of being a man, messing with multiple women while still dealing with her. And one of the females who I was messing with at the time, so happened to I so happened to get caught up with. Long story short, and Lady X was, she was upset. She was furious about it, and rightfully so. So I say all that to say that a week later, the week of all of this happening, um, we had discussed it. We were at odds with each other, but she was willing to give me another shot to make things right. And I mismanaged it. And I say I mismanaged it for the fact of the matter that I didn't respond properly.
Okay.
I didn't fully address her concerns. And that night, that Saturday night that me and my neighbor's cousin went out on the town, uh, I showed up to her place late because she called me and she told me she wanted me to come over
Right.
after I finished hanging out, and I told her I would. And I did. I came over, but it was late. And if you know anything about Tuscaloosa, Alabama, at certain times, I think it's Saturday, like after 1 o'clock, you can't buy no more alcohol. They're kind of considered a dry county.
Right.
And most of their clubs close around 1:30 at the latest. So I didn't show up to her house till like 3 o'clock. And you show up there at 3 o'clock, you done had too much to drink, things of that nature, right? But you just setting yourself up for failure. And so I got there. I had brought her something to eat from Taco Bell because she liked to eat late night Taco Bell. And I brought her the food, and of course she was fussing because it was so late. And eventually she would calm down, relax, and eat her food. After all of that occurred, me and her began to get intimate. And when it was time for me to perform, I had what they call, what you would call, excuse my language, but whiskey dick, and I couldn't get it up. And that opened up a door of propaganda that I couldn't even control because, like I said, a week before I just got caught up um, messing with another female, and she found out about it, and here we are a week later, and then that occurred.
Right.
You know,
Kind of made her feel
things are bound to go
the
left.
same thing. Kind of made her feel like you're doing the same thing.
Right. And things were bound to go left. And, you can only take so much, especially when you're inebriated like that. And then that kind of discussion and dialogue is going on, that eventually you two gonna retaliate against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what happened. It was inappropriate behavior at the highest degree. Um, but that night, the police would be called. They would kick the door in. They would handcuff me, take me to jail, things of that nature. And I'm thinking I'm going to jail for domestic violence when truthfully, I was being set up to go to jail for something I never in my life would have thought I'd be associated with. And I would find this out when they took me to a homicide unit. And I was like, what I'm going to homicide for? Ain't nobody dead or nothing like that. When I get there, uh, they would tell me like, hey man, we brought you in here because you're being accused of rape and domestic violence. I was like, look, man, I ain't raped nobody. And I ain't never did that. I don't even get down like that. And these people were like, okay, well, prove it. And they made me take my clothes off and prove it. I'm like, look, man, I couldn't even get it up. And I'm just telling you. And so uh they did their due diligence of running the test on me and getting my DNA and forensics and things of that nature. But yeah, I would go to jail that night for domestic violence in the second degree and rape in the first. I would post bail that morning and I would get out. And when I got out, I contacted my lawyer. My lawyer contacted me a few days later and called me into his office, asked me what happened, and I gave him the rundown just like I'm giving to you.
Right.
And he was like, okay, well, let me look into this further. And so he gave the lead detective a call, and he was like, hey, what's up with this case with Christopher Leonard and his girlfriend and things of that nature? And he was like, look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. We ain't got him on the rape. We just charged him with it because we knew we could. We got him on the domestic violence stuff. Yeah, he's going down for the domestic violence. We just charged him with the rape because we knew we could. They're not knowing I'm sitting in the office with my lawyer the whole time and I'm hearing everything that he's saying. So I'm hearing this and I'm sitting here with the WTF look on my face, like, what is really going on? If you know you didn't have me on it, why would you charge me with it?
Mm.
And my lawyer took that information and he made a couple other calls and he found out like, hey, they coming off your bond or whatever, because I was still in the diversion program for the gun and weed charge that I caught years prior. And he was like, hey man, they coming off your bond. You got to turn yourself in. I was like, why? He was like, because I don't want you to be out. Basically, I don't want you to be out here and you catch another case and it be a double situation you can't get out of. If that makes any sense.
Right. Okay, so let's kind of recap this, because I really want the young people to get this, how one day can really just change the whole direction of your life. So you're out, you're having fun, you're out on the town, you're drinking and chilling with the um neighbor's nephew or something like that. I apologize. But um but when you come back, you get back a little late, and that starts an argument because your previous actions, that you just got caught with other woman, and she
Right,
believed that you had been out with another woman again. So that
right,
leads into, of course, a big argument. So once you get her to calm down, you guys eat and then try to get intimate, but you're unable to perform. And then that leads her to believe again that you're out sleeping around. Uh,
right,
Things go left, and you guys end up, I guess, fighting. Um,
right.
so
Yeah.
the police get called, and so they charge you with the rape. Just, did she tell them that, or did they just do that on their own?
Okay. So here's how I looked at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because if you go through my file, their statements are so contradictory
Right.
and convoluted that it doesn't add. Nobody never says that happened. They just put that on me. So to paint the picture better, I was halfway dressed when they kicked the door in.
Okay.
She was half naked.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, they took what they saw perceptionally
Okay.
and put their own narrative on it. Because if you go through my case file, you'll see she never says that happened.
Okay. I understand that. Okay. So they revoke your bond. Now you have to turn yourself in. So now you're locked up, but you're not about to go right home. So what is that
Right.
experience like? What's going through your mind at this time?
You sitting in there, you asking yourself, how did I end up here?
Mm,
How did I let seconds, seconds, minutes in life dictate me being here?
mm,
Um, because it's a feeling that I wouldn't wish nobody to have. And then when you're in a situation, it's different. I tell people, I've told many people this. It's different if I had really did X, Y, and Z,
mhm.
but when I know I didn't do it, and I just heard this detective tell me and my lawyer, not knowing I was in the background, but tell my lawyer on the phone We know we don't have them on the rape. We just charged them with it because we knew we could. And I have to turn myself in. I'm sitting in here and they tell it, and I heard these people say this, right?
Right.
My mind is going all different places.
Mm.
But truthfully, I hear a voice in my head say to me, look at it like this. I warned you many times to separate yourself from what you were doing and who you were with, but you chose not to. And so I got to make your hard head have a soft tail.
That's right.
And that's what happened. And even certain guys that I bumped into in there and we would talk, they were like, look, man, look at it as a way of God saving you from the worst version of yourself. Take this as an opportunity to sober up, to really concentrate and find different dimensions in yourself. Like to learn how to use your mind, because they were telling me, hey, basically, as young black men, as a young black man, they said they failed. They failed because they thought all fights in life were physical. And he said, no, everything you fight through at this juncture in your life for the rest of your life is going to be a mental stage. And you got to learn how to control your mentality.
Yeah. So you end up doing 18 months before you end up getting a trial.
Yeah.
Goodness, man. I know that had to be hard.
It was hard, but I tell you, the things that I endured in there were harder, and not in the sense of just the environment, but the fact that I had to find outlets for my mind to get its exercise. Like the first 6 months I was in there, I was in a dorm, we didn't have no TV. So what do you do when you ain't got no TV to help your mind feel a sense of control? You start reading books. And one of the wisest men in there said to me, like, young buck, read a book. He said, why don't you start off with reading the Bible? So I read the Bible, and then I ended up picking up the first book I really ever read while I was in there. It was called The Disclosure. And I was fascinated. And so, like, I didn't know that books could really just, you hear about it and you remember when you were a kid, but when you're older and you start reading a book that's real good, you realize the endless thoughts that you can have, and the way to open up your imagination and your perspective. So I got hooked on reading books and taking myself out of my circumstance.
Mm. So how did you end up getting out? What kind of deal did you make?
Well, like you said, 18 months in, my lawyer finally got us a chance to go to trial. So we go to trial. We're getting ready to go to trial. I'm looking at a life sentence. At minimum 20 years. Because my lawyer's like, look, he's like this, man, we could beat this rape, but they may hit you, they may get you on the domestic violence and max those years out, plus the gun and the possession of marijuana case you already had. So
they brought all that back together.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, that's their tactic. They didn't necessarily bring it together, but they were prepared. So, like, say I beat that new set of charges that I just got with the rape and the domestic violence. Say I beat that and they get thrown all out the window. They can see legitimate cause for whatever and have reasonable doubt to question what the DA and the detectives were agenda. Okay, cool. What people have to realize is they just spent taxpayers' dollars to bring a jury in, to get the judge here, to get people in here, to witness and atone for what was going on, and you beat them. Well, DAs don't like to lose.
That's right.
It's just the fact they don't like to lose, and if they lose and they got something else they could tack on you and come back and get you, that's what they're gonna do. So I had already had these set of charges that were pending my completion of the diversion program. Well, they can easily take those charges and bring them back up to court and revisit them. Because technically, when you're in the diversion program, your case is still open until you complete it.
That's right.
And so if you don't complete it, the judge can revisit and recant his initial decision and enhance your punishment. So imagine if I beat the domestic violence and they say they want to max me out on the marijuana and the gun. That's like 10 years right there, because the marijuana is considered a Class C felony, if I'm not mistaken. Class C felonies carry up to 10 years. And so, you just imagine you had to do 10 years, 80% or 70% of those 10 years in jail behind marijuana. So I say all that to say this, to where my lawyer was able to get those charges dismissed with the exception of the domestic violence and possession of marijuana. And he was like, hey, man, can you do 5 more months? You already done 18. You do these 5 more months, come out, you be on probation for 5 years, but you'll get out and you can start your life back over.
Right. Did you end up accepting that?
I did.
So altogether, you ended up doing like 23 months, right up on the
I did like 23 months.
Okay. Okay, so now you get your plea deal, you serve your time. Let's talk about the transition and getting back into society. So what was that like? What did you do when you first got out?
Man, when I first got out, of course, I went to go find something to eat. But mainly, I had already been I had been planning my steps with my godfather while I was in there.
Okay.
Because I was writing him. And he has this nonprofit organization called New Generations Inc., where he's invested in the community for the younger group from any age ranging from 12 to 30 almost. But the goal is to help us reform ourselves in society. And he had gave me a few steps to take. He said, hey, listen, when you get out, first things first, I need you to go sign up for vocational rehabilitation services. And I was like, what's that? He said, it's an organization that helps individuals rehabilitate themselves to society. And he was like, listen, whether you believe it or not, the circumstances you just endured, there's some mental things that you need to address. So you need to go to them to see if they can help you find a therapist.
Right.
And he said, from there, you showcase that you've been addressing any form of mental issues that you have, and then they can take your consistency from therapy and enroll you in their program and help you find employment. It's not always guaranteed, but at least you'll have this option working for you while you're working your other options. Okay. So I did that, and I walked around, called around looking for like local organizations that help ex-cons get rehabilitated to society, because truthfully, a lot of companies say they don't hire ex-cons, but they get tax credits and benefits from the government from hiring ex-con and helping he or she develop new skill traits and things of that nature. And if they can show metrics to where these individuals enhance the organization, they definitely get benefits from that. But that wasn't the luck I was running into. Most people were just turning me down because of my record.
Right. So were they able to take the You didn't get charged with the rape, so that never hit your record, right?
But here, the funny thing about the system is that if you get charged with something,
Hmm.
like until you go to court and get convicted, you know, you just charged with it. But it still leaves a stain. So when jobs do your background or whatever,
Right.
those charges still come up. They show those dates. But you were never convicted of that.
Right.
And I was never convicted of that. And I said that on several occasions. I was never convicted of that, but
Right.
I was charged with it. And most people are illiterate to the system. They don't understand that they can charge you with anything. It's about what ends up getting bound over to the grand jury for an indictment and what you end up pleading out to at the end of the day that matters.
Mm. So even though you wasn't charged with it, you're still being punished for it, even though when you get out. So when you
Yeah,
get a job, they're still seeing this and they're still judging you off the fact that you even went down for
yeah. I mean, but it's crazy, but that's how they do it. I've even done research to where I found certain information to where it's stated like, look, you may have been charged or convicted of said crime, but if those crimes don't affect you doing your daily performance on the job, the organization is not supposed to hold that against you. Like, granted, if you got into some money laundering or you were stealing from a job, now that kind of sets a different precedence
it. Right.
versus you actually having a situation occur and it has nothing to do with you being a dishonest individual or someone who could compromise an organization.
Hmm. Yeah, it sucks, man. Hell of a world we live in. Uh, so let's talk about now you're out and you're having trouble finding a job. How did you go about actually getting your head above water? Know that you took the programs, you did therapy. What are some of the other things that you was able to utilize to help get your footing back?
I would volunteer my time wherever I could. I even went to other organizations. Went to manufacturing companies. I went to big businesses, and I said, "Listen, I understand I got this over my head, but however, I'm back in school. I'm working to get my bachelor's degree.
Hmm.
I just want to volunteer. Just teach me the job. Show me what you need done, and I'll do it. You don't have to pay me. I just need the experience. I just need to be able to showcase that I did better myself. That let the knowledge you give me be my payment versus the knowledge and the experience you give me be my payment versus you cut me a check. Because
Hmm.
at the time I didn't have any kids, anything like that. I just wanted to develop a skill set to where, okay, when y'all say y'all done with me for my volunteer work, I at least got a skill set to now I know how to go establish income.
All right.
If I had to push myself into a situation where I had to be my own independent contractor or businessman, I have a skill set now that allows me to go out there and make revenue.
Hmm.
And plus, I'm in school. So my goal was to just listen, treat everybody with respect
Right.
and still have a smile on my face when they say no. As hard as that may be to endure, but yet easily said, I just had to swallow that and just like, look, man, I screwed up. A lot of people are not going to be easily forgiven until my behavior changed. So I got to keep working on it right now.
Okay. So you were able to go back and actually finish college. What degrees did you get?
I went back to school and I finished college. I got my bachelor's degree in business management with a minor in marketing. And I got two certifications in software application products and enterprise resource planning.
Okay. Congratulations on that, brother.
I
Congratulations.
appreciate it.
But that's not the only major accomplishment. You actually had two beautiful sons afterwards.
Yeah. After I got my bachelor's degree, and then I went back to school to get my master's. Like I said, I had two. Like you said, I had two sons.
Okay.
I had my oldest son. I I met his mother after a couple of months of being out, and next thing you know, she was carrying my oldest son,
Hmm.
and my youngest son. Things would happen, and he would come about later in life after I kind of got my feet wet and established in society.
Right. Okay. But that leaves you to actually having to fight for custody of your two boys.
It does.
Talk,
Um,
talk about that
ag-
process for a young black man. Because a lot of guys don't know having kids, whether you're on child support or not, you don't have any rights to your kids until you go through the legitimation process. And I have been through custody battles myself. So can you explain for the young guys who haven't went through it, what is that like having to fight for custody, have rights for your kids?
well, first things first is that you gotta get past the taboo stories that you hear from your other other male friends.
Hmm.
Like, man, don't put yourself on child support. They're gonna rip you up and take your money and just ruin your life.
Hmm.
And I had to learn for myself that a lot of those guys were saying what they were saying because they were on the reactive end of it.
Hmm.
So my mother and a couple of mentors in my life were basically telling me, Chris, if you don't plan on being with this girl, you need to go down there and put yourself on child support and sign up to get your standard custody rights. And I was like, man, don't they cost money? He was like, yeah, but go down to the courthouse and see what you can dig up. So that's what I did.
Okay.
I went down there to the courthouse and I asked about the paperwork, and I started to befriend some of the ladies that were working in the office. And I asked them like, hey, what paperwork I need, or could you point me in the right direction, and and what other information I could read. And they gave me some documents, and it turns to find out that, you can file to put yourself on child support and file for your custody rights at the same time. Basically, you can run those documents parallel with each other. It's not that you got to go put yourself on child support first, then sign up for standard custody rights, or thinking that because you paying child support, you got rights to your kids. No, you don't. You just establishing you're establishing a vein of responsibility for them.
That's right.
It is not wholeheartedly establishing your rights to those kids. And you just have to know that you can file petitions. You could file for emergency hearing if your circumstances alarmingly call out for such, or that you can file motions to have your custody arrangement adjusted or reconsidered.
Okay. That's right, man. Yeah. I would beg any young fella that's out there, listen to the sound of our voices, to really, really do your research on how to get your rights on your kids. The women have all the rights, all the power, but it's ways to get your power back. You don't
Yeah.
have to deal with all the drama from the woman, and she don't get to dictate your life, because that's what happens when you don't have rights. She get to dictate your life, well, your involvement in your kid's life. So
Oh
I
yeah.
advise anybody to really, really go do the research so you don't have to go down that road. Um,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I mean, and you're right. And like you said, I encourage all men that got kids. If you don't plan to be with that woman for the rest of your life, I highly encourage you to go down there and put yourself on child support and to file for your standard custody and rights to your kid. Because like you said, these There's certain women out there that will have all the rights to your kids and be dictating how you gonna interact with them.
Mhm.
And it really sets a precedence in the courtroom too, and with the judge that you are being proactive and not reactive in reference to your responsibilities. And that's you when you're going through the legalities of everything, you always want to showcase yourself as a responsive and responsible human being, and that you are proactive and not reactive because it takes the leverage and it minimizes the stereotype that gets placed against us.
That's right. Because when you first go to court, you are a scumbag.
Yeah,
Hands
yeah,
down. There's no other way. You are treated like the worst of the worst. And like you said, we get that label before we even walk through the door. So what he's saying is 100% right. If you can get in front of that and be proactive, then it helps you out tremendously. But now I want to get into now you were able to meet someone special after all this, find love. Talk about that.
yeah. I mean, I definitely did meet an amazing lady. Um, she's been my for the last few years. She's been my support system. She's encouraged me to see myself in a different light. That to know that everything that I made it through
Hmm.
was not in vain, but it was an opportunity to God to build me on a refined level. You know, like I said, I encourage men to be proactive and not reactive, and that's how we've become so stagnant and lost our footing in life because we haven't been consistently proactive with things that we should do. Um, and she's been a blessing in my life. She's helped me be a better father to my two young men that I'm raising. I couldn't have asked for a better a better person.
That's right. Congratulations on that, man. And
Thank
it's
you.
one thing that I always root for is black love. You know,
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful thing, and we need a lot more of it, and it needs to be highlighted a lot more. So
Yeah.
congratulations to you and her for finding that, and I wish you guys many, many more years. Maybe matter of fact, scratch that. I wish you guys a lifetime of happiness together.
I appreciate that. And then, and you help solidify that, seeing what you and your wife are doing and your steps in the footsteps you're imprinting into the community. And that is it's a one unit movement. And I know it's two people, but you two come together in one unit and you guys are building momentum to shift your environment. And I can truly appreciate that.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. But currently now you're writing a book. You tell the people about your book that you're writing.
I'm writing a book. I'm part of what you call an anthology.
Hmm.
And the book it's called Image in the Mirror 3, The King in Me. The King in Me that I see. And basically it's speaking to my story as well as six other brothers who
Okay.
found that moment in life where they pivoted and transitioned. And for others, it could be them just seeing their reflection in the mirror, and they may be looking at the now, but the later version of themselves hasn't had a way of reflecting, showing a reflection in the mirror, and they see themselves and they're like, man, so that's really me. And you be how they begin the end process to get to that point. Um, I know, especially for me, my purpose of writing and being a part of this book
Mhm.
was to stop letting my past compete with my future. Um, the things that I endorsed in or were associated with may have been a narrative once said in my life, but it is not the reality of who I am today.
That's right. It's powerful. When can um when can the people expect this book?
The book will go on pre-sale within the first 2 weeks of November. We're in the finalizing the editing stage of everything right now. Everybody submitted their stories, and I just have to give much love and respect to Miss Angie Mitchell, aka Coach Angie, and Miss Joan Thrax Randall. They have been so instrumental and pivotal in my life, in the life of other men and women. Miss Randall and Miss Mitchell. These are amazing vessels that God has given life to, and the fact that they have a resilient tone for purpose and helping people find it. I couldn't have asked for a better group of women, or should I say, people to work with.
Okay. Well, shout out to those women for stepping into your life and making change. And I want everybody to be looking out for the book that may be out the first or the second week in November called The Image in the Mirror 3, The King in Me Transform the Man I See. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right on point.
Make sure you guys go look for this book, check it out. This man has an amazing story to tell. We want to make sure he gets all the support that he needs. I want to thank you, brother, for joining us today.
Oh man, no doubt, man. Listen, I appreciate you and your wife. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. Like you said, black love is key
Right.
towards building our future. And I appreciate you guys being the stepping stones to that. And I look forward to joining you in the future on that stone as well.
We look forward to having you, brother. But again, this has been another episode. This is the Studio 125 Multimedia Complex. I am your host, J.R. King. And again, this is Christopher Leonard. Thank you again, brother. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
The pleasure was all mine, man. Thank you again. Studio 125. I look forward to hearing more about y'all's success.
All right. All right. For everybody who's listening, thank you for listening. Please look forward to more episodes to come. Again, brother, I thank you. Peace.
Peace.